Hello, welcome to Talent Sprint. In this video, we will look at one other component of our verbal aptitude section, which is fill in the blanks, otherwise called as sentence completion. Now, in this particular question type, you might come across various patterns. One pattern is where there is a sentence with just one blank. The second pattern is where you have a sentence with two blanks. And there is also another pattern where there are two scenarios given and you are expected to choose only one word from the given options that fits both the scenarios. So we will look at all these three variations. And when it comes to sentence completion, there are various strategies one can apply. One, because there is a context given, the context itself will help you identify the answer. There will be clues in the context which will help you identify the right option. Also, you will have hint words that give you a synonym meaning, or hint words that give you an antonym meaning. So let's go ahead and look at some example sentences, look at all those three variations that I discussed, and let's try and solve as many questions as possible with respect to sentence completion. So let's look at the first sentence that we have. This sentence has one blank. Reading. They work hard not because of the blank, but because of their inner urge. So I understand that the context itself, there is a contrast, right? They work hard not because of there is something, but because of their inner urge. So let's look at our options. Option 1, desire. Option 2, drive. Option 3, energy. Option 4, incentive. And option 5, motivation. And we also have a clue word in the context. Are you able to identify the clue word? The clue word is nothing but inner urge. That's our clue word, right? So what do you understand by inner urge? Inner urge means nothing but desire, the motivation, the zeal or the energy for you to do something. There is some sort of a drive. So if you look at it from my options, there are 4 words that are synonym with inner urge, which is option 1, option 2, option 3 and option 5. The only word that is left out is incentive. Now let's look at the context. They work hard not because of the incentive, but because of their inner urge. They are not looking at some sort of a reward or money or some sort of expectation, but they are working only because they are self-motivated. There's some sort of inner urge or desire. They love what they're doing, and that's why they, work hard. So we understand from the given clue word, inner urge. So we know that we have to look at the answer option has to be a word that is opposite in meaning to inner urge. And we've already identified 4 synonyms with inner urge from the options. So for the first sentence, our answer is incentive. They work hard not because of the incentive, but because of their inner urge. Let's go ahead and write that down. Let's move on to our second sentence. His blank background has made him so docile. Alright. Now in the second sentence, there is another word that is acting as a clue word, which is nothing but docile. Right? Docile comes from the word domestic. Okay, so docile is somebody who's being very timid, not just timid, rather would be shy, but we're talking about somebody who's very meek, right? Let's look at our answer options. We have option 1, famous, option 2, lucrative, option 3, rich, option 4, advanced, option 5, humble. Now, are there any words that you probably don't understand the meaning of? Lucrative, profitable, right? So let's fall back. So we've identified our clue word docile. We understand what that means, and this is basically a synonym clue word, right? There is another word in the context helping you identify the answer option. So his what background has made him so docile? So I have to look for a word that brings in the same meaning as docile, because docile is backing up the answer option, right? Having said that, from our options, we know that the answer is option 5, humble. Somebody who's meek, somebody who, is teachable, right? Somebody who understands what it takes to do something. So famous, lucrative, rich, advanced in this context does not fit the bill. So we've identified the answer option as 5 for the second sentence. Let's go ahead and put that down. Third sentence, it is dash for everyone to abide by the laws of the land. Alright, so again, are you able to identify the clue word from the context? Yes, abide, right? Something that has to be followed, strictly followed, adhered to. So let's look at our options. Expected, option 1, option 2 obligatory, option 3 meant, option 4 optional, option 5 recommended. Okay, so let's see what are we looking at. From the given options, which is the word that is bringing in the meaning of something that must be done, right? An obligation, which is nothing but the second option, obligatory. Some of you might come back and say, what about expected, right? When I use expected, you normally follow it with a preposition to and not for. You know, he is expected to do this. What was expected of you, right? That's another context where of as a preposition is following expected. So based on the context, normally you would either have to or of following expected and not for. So having said that, the answer option for sentence 3 is obligatory. It is obligatory, it is necessary, it is a must that everyone needs to abide by the laws of the land. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that down. Let's move on to our fourth sentence. Dash, he is a hard worker. His quality of work is not of a desirable level. What are my options? Option 1, despite. Option 2, because. Option 3, although. Option 4, somehow. Option 5, however. Okay, so in this sentence again, we have a antonym hint word, which is not, right? Not. Dash, he is a hard worker. His quality of work is not of a desirable level. So basically, I need to look at from the options, given options, which is the word that is giving me, you know, an antonym, a contrast hint. Is it despite? Is it because? It is although? Is it although? Is it somehow? Or is it however? Let's look at our options. Despite means in spite of, right? However, I would not be able to grammatically fit this word in the context, because if I have to use despite, I have to say despite him being a hard worker. We don't say despite he is a hard worker, which is incorrect as a sentence construction. So I rule out option 1. Because he is a hard worker, his quality of work is not of a desirable level. Now because is a cause hint word, right? Giving me the reason. So if he is a hard worker, then his work should be of a desirable level, but it says it's not of a desirable level, so option 2 is out. Although means even though, right? Although he is a hard worker, his quality of work is not of a desirable level. So you expect his work to be of a desirable level because he is a hard worker, but it's not. So a contrast clue word here is although, which fits the bill. Somehow he is a hard worker, his quality of work, it's not a logical fit. However, he is a hard worker, again, however brings the meaning of nevertheless. It's not the right fit in this context. So our option is option 3, although he is a hard worker, complementing the hint word, the antonym hint word not, and although is a contrast hint word as well. So let's go ahead and make that change. Although he is a hard worker, his quality of work is not of a desirable level. Let's move to our next blank. In spite of repeated instructions, he dashed the same mistakes. Let's look at our options. Option 1 commits, option 2 detects, option 3 corrects, option 4 imitates, option 5 exhibits. Alright, again we have in spite of, right, which is a contrast hint word. Repeated instructions, he dashed the same mistakes. So again we looking at, we understand the context, right? The sentence is conveying the meaning that in spite of providing repeated instructions, this person continues to do the same mistakes. So which option gives me that meaning? Commits, option 1. Not detects, not corrects, not imitates, and not exhibits. Definitely all these 4 words are not the right vocabulary fit in this context, right? He's not detecting anything, he's not identifying anything, he's definitely not correcting it because he is the one who is doing the mistakes. He's not imitating anybody, and it's not a show that he's exhibiting, right? So he commits, it's something that he does. So the answer is option 1. Moving on to our 6th sentence. Rohit dash a huge library and has a large collection of books in it. Option 1 wants, option 2 has, option 3 wanted, option 4 had, and option 5 needs. Now looking at the context, we're talking about something that he already has, right? And it's talking about what he has in it also. So I can automatically eliminate option 1, option 3 and option 5. Because the general tense in the sentence is present tense, I can also eliminate option 4, which is had, which is the past tense verb, right? So our answer option is 2. Rohit has a huge library and has a large collection of books in it. You already have the clue word in the context, which is the simple present tense, has, right? So let's make that correction. Moving on to our 7th sentence. Rachna liked her room to be exactly the way she left it, and she would dash allow anyone to touch her things. So what is the context conveying to us? It says what its meaning is that Rachna basically doesn't like anybody to touch her things. She likes it just the way it is. So let's look at our options. Always, sometimes, willing, never, certainly. So we know that we need a negative word, and where is that coming from? It says she would dash allow anyone to touch her things. So if somebody likes their room to be just the way they've left it, obviously we're looking at a negative word. From the options, the negative word, the only negative option is option 4, never. All the other words, always, sometimes, willing, certainly, are positive words, right? So looking at the context again, we know that our option is 4, never. Rachna liked her room to be exactly the way she left it, and she would never allow anyone to touch her things. Let's go ahead and fill that blank. Moving on to our 8th sentence. Elephants are the largest living land animals dash earth today. Let's look at our options. Option 1 in, option 2 and, option 3 on, option 4 like, and option 5 at. So we have a mix of prepositions and a conjunction as options. So let's look at what would be the right fit. We're talking about these land animals present on the surface of the earth, right? So on the surface of, the preposition that gives you that meaning is option 3, on, right? When we say in as a preposition is normally used to talk about in an enclosed area, in a space, in a city, in a country, right? So in would not be the best fit here. Elephants are the largest living animals, land animals and earth today, illogical. Elephants are the largest living land animals like earth today, again illogical. Elephants are the largest living land animals at earth today, again illogical, because at again as a preposition brings in a specific location, but we're widely talking about earth here, and we're talking about on the surface of. So the right preposition that will fit the blank is on. Let's go ahead and fill the blank. Our 9th sentence. Josephine was elated because the doctor confirmed the news dash her pregnancy. So we understand the context is talking about whose pregnancy? Josephine's pregnancy, right? The pregnancy is hers, right? Now, so basically from the options we need to look at a word that brings in the meaning of possession, right? Let's look at our options. Option 1 like, option 2 of, option 3 with, option 4 after, and option 5 in. We know from the given prepositions what is our option? Of, right? What is the answer? Of. Josephine was elated because the doctor confirmed the news of her pregnancy. Of is a preposition that brings in the meaning of belonging, possession, right? Not with. With again talks about accompanying. Not after, illogical fit. and not definitely in, and like, right? So our answer option is 2 off. Let's fill that blank. Moving on to our 10th sentence. It dash been estimated that there may be many millions of species of plants, insects and microorganisms still undiscovered in tropical rainforests. Now this is an easy, pretty easy options if you look at it, the sentence itself, because you have been estimated, you know, which is a perfect tense, right? So you just have to look at what would be the right option to fall in with this particular form. Is it have? Is it will? Is it should? Is it has? Or is it shall? I know from my structure, you know, with being estimated being the clue, it either has to be have or has. I can automatically eliminate option 2, 3 and 5. Will, should and shall, right? Will being estimated, should being estimated, shall being estimated, incorrect. Because we know modals. Will, should and shall are modals, and modals are usually followed by the base form, which is nothing but the first verb, right? Remember, verbs, we have the present tense, we have the past tense, and then we have the past participle, right? So when I have modals, they usually are followed with with the base verb, the first verb. So here, because it's it, we're talking about a singular subject, the option has to be option 4, has, and not have, right? So let's fill that blank. So it has been estimated that there may be many millions of species of plants, insects and microorganisms still undiscovered in tropical rainforests. We're moving on to the second variation, the pattern, where I said there is a topic part, and then there is a closing part, and the parts in between of the sentence is jumbled. Now for a pattern like this, what you ideally need to do is identify the subject, identify the action, and then you know, connect and create the remaining parts. Couple of language components like, you know, idioms or just phrases come in handy in this particular pattern. Let's understand that when we attempt these question types. The first one that we have is the Constitution of India mandates. So that's the topic part that is given to us, and then the parts in between P, Q, R and S are jumbled, and then we have the closing part, welfare will be promoted. Now there are various strategies that you can apply to a pattern like this. One, you can go from the last part, you know, seeing which is the part that sequences or attaches itself to the closing part, or we could ask questions, that's another way, or we could look for idioms or phrases which we are familiar with and know that, you know, this, like for example, Q has to be followed by R, or P has to be followed by Q because of that you know, idiomatic expression or a phrase. So let's see if we are able to find and apply any of those strategies that we just discussed. So the Constitution of India mandates what? What does it mandate? Primary duty, mandates must convince, mandates the welfare of the people, or mandates a party seeking power? We don't know. Let's understand that the Constitution of India mandates what? You know, normally something that answers the question what or who is a subject, right? So when I look at the subject here, it either has to be a party seeking power or the welfare of the people. It has to be R or S, right? So let's go with option R and see if the sequence you know, follows through. The Constitution of India mandates the welfare of the people as what? As the must, can't be. As the a party seeking, can't be. So it has to be as the primary duty of the government, and must convince the people that they're, then where do I fit in S, a party seeking power? It doesn't make sense, right? So let's go back. So we see the Constitution of India mandates the welfare of the people as the primary duty of the government, and a party seeking power must convince the people that their welfare will be promoted. So that's one way of looking at it. The second way you could say is, which is the part which will connect to the closing statement, right? Convince the people that they're what? If you look at Q, convince the people that their what? That their welfare will be promoted. So if I go by the closing part, I know Q has to be my last statement. Now, always keep looking at your options. If you look at your options, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the only option where Q is the last part is option 1, right? And let's go back and follow the first strategy that we applied. The Constitution of India mandates what? The welfare of the people. R. So I know that both of these strategies that I applied goes ahead and gives me the answer as option 1. So for the first one, what we've simply done is we've just asked questions. We've asked questions, we've identified the subject, and then we've identified the action, and then we've connected and created the remainder of the sentence. So what is the sequence? The Constitution of India mandates the welfare of the people as a primary duty of the government, and a party seeking power must convince the people that their welfare will be promoted. And the answer is option 1. Let's look at another question of the same pattern to understand this better. Here we have the strongest point in favor of who? Favor of, again, I need the subject, right? Remember, questions who or what? Answer always or point out to the subject. So favor of equal, favor of justice is done, favor of basis, favor of democracy. Democracy, here is my subject. So the strongest point in favor of democracy is that everyone is what? Again, you know what democracy is, right? For the people, of the people, all of that. So having said that, which is talking about being equal for everybody, right? We understand that about democracy. So is that everyone is equal in the eyes of law, and you can automatically connect and create the remainder of the system. And justice is done on the basis of merit rather than on religion, caste, or status. So here we go. Again, we've applied the strategy of identifying the subject, who or what answers you. That's the question that answers you or points you to the subject, right? So the strongest point in favor of who? Favor of democracy is that everyone is what? Equal in the eyes of law, and justice is done on the basis of merit rather than on religion, caste, or status. So which is the sequence that gives you that? S. So that would be option 4, right? The strongest point in favor of democracy is that everyone is equal in the eyes of law, and justice is done on the basis of merit rather than on religion, caste, or status. Do you see that? So for patterns like this, it's pretty simple. Identify the subject, identify the action, connect and create the remainder of the sentence. Let's look at one more. If the government wants what? If the government wants new entrants, and if the government wants to change the rules, okay, if the government wants, make sure the preposition to is missing, so I can't add that with R. If the government wants the game, it should allow new entrants and make sure that there is, okay, again, so it's going all over the place. Now, but if you look at those sentences, is there a phrase or an idiom where, which is helping you connect? New entrants and to change the rules of the game. Rules of the game, right? Have you noticed that? Rules of the game is a idiom, right? Rules of the game. You play by the rules of the game. It's an idiom. It's a set expression. So having said that, Q and S. So I know that S has to follow Q. Now from my options, which are the options that where Q is followed by S, which is option 3, right? S is following Q, and then I have option 5. S is following Q. These are the only 2 options. So I've limited my options. I have to choose between 3 and 5. Now let's go back, try and apply which one seems logically right. So if I go by 3, if the government wants, and then it starts with R. If the government wants, make sure the preposition to is missing. So that cannot be my sequence right there. I've eliminated 3. So it has to be 5. Let's go back and look at it. If the government wants to change the rules of the game, it should allow who? It should allow new entrants and make sure that there is a level playing field. So there you go. You've unraveled it and you've arrived at the answer, which is option 5, QSPR. Great. So some of the strategies that we've applied here, as mentioned earlier, is we've identified the subject, always asking the question who or what. Then we've identified the action, we've connected and created the remainder of the sentence. We've also looked for, in this particular example, we saw an idiomatic expression, rules of the game. We limited our options and we looked at both the options and saw grammatically what would be a logical fit, right? So here ends jumbled sentences for you. Only by practice you would learn to identify keywords or clue words in each sentence, and it becomes easier for you to get to the answer quickly without wasting time. So remember the strategies that we discussed in the beginning. If you don't have descriptive clue words or sequential clue words or cause and effect or contrasting clue words, always look for keywords highlighted within each sentence, which will help you answer and connect the remainder of the sentence. Ask questions. Also, don't waste time reading the entire sentence. Identify the topic sentence first, which is always the easiest part, and then is when the challenge begins. So, but for variations like this, where we looked at a different pattern, identify the subject, identify the action, and then connect and create the sentence. So keep practicing. I will see you guys in the next session. So we've looked at sentences with 2 blanks. Now we're going to move to the third variation, where there are 2 scenarios given, and however, from the options we are required to choose only one word that fits both the scenarios. So let's look at that variation. So let's read the directions. It says in each of these questions, 2 sentences 1 and 2, which are the 2 scenarios. Each sentence has a blank in it. 5 words, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 are suggested. Out of these, only one fits at both the places in the context of each sentence. The number of that word is the answer. Let's look at our first sentence. The first sentence says, the first scenario is, the bird dash out its feathers. Okay. And the second scenario says, she dash her interview at JNU. Alright, so let's look at our options. Option 1, shook. Option 2, fluffed. Option 3, vibrated. Option 4, crossed. Option 5, left. So the bird left out its feathers, the bird crossed out its feathers, the bird vibrated out its feathers, the bird shook out its feathers. Maybe the first one and even the second one, the bird fluffed out its feathers. Having said that, the first and the second word seem like a best fit for the first scenario, but we also have to make sure that the second scenario also fits in. She shook her interview at JNU, doesn't make sense. She fluffed her interview at JNU, yes. As we all know, one word can have more than 2 or 3 meanings based on the context. In this context, she fluffed her interview at JNU means she made a blunder, she made an error, right? So she ruined her interview basically. So that's what fluffed. Another meaning for fluffed is ruining, or making a blunder or an error. So from the 2 scenarios provided, we know that the option that fits these blanks are fluffed. So let's fill those blanks. Looking at our second sentence, he came to see me on the dash of wanting to borrow a book. The second scenario, we have to find a dash for not going to the party. Okay, what are our options? Option 1, reason. Option 2, solution. Option 3, way. Option 4, excuse. Option 5, pretext. So what do you think is the answer option here? He came to see me on the reason of wanting. He came to see me on the solution of wanting. He came to see me on the way of wanting. He came to see me on the excuse of wanting, maybe. He came to see me on the pretext of wanting, could be. But we know that having read all the options, out loud, trying to fit it in the blank, we can eliminate option 1, 2 and 3 for the first scenario. We'll have to choose between 4 and 5. Both seem like a proper fit, but we need to make sure it fits in the second scenario as well. We have to find a excuse for not going to the party. I know I can't use that because excuse begins with a vowel, E, which means I have to have an and not a. So I rule out option 4, and my answer is option 5, pretext. We have to find a pretext for not going to the party. Pretext means something that you scheme, you come up with, you're disguising. You're coming up with something that is not true. So he came to see me on the pretext of wanting to borrow a book. So the actual reason is not that he wanted to borrow the book, but maybe it was something else. So we have to find a pretext for not going to the party. We have to come up with something. We have to come up with a make-believe thing, right? So that's what pretext means. So let's fill those blanks. Sentence 3. Future generations will be left with a dash of pollution and destruction. Let's look at our second scenario. They each received a dash of $10,000. Now let's look at our options. Option 1, legacy. Option 2, sum. Option 3, fortune. Option 4, amount. Option 5, inheritable. Okay, so from these given options, we need to choose one word that fits both the scenarios. They each received a sum of $10,000. Seems like a good fit, but does sum fit the first scenario? Future generations will be left with a sum of pollution? Illogical. Again, they each received a amount. It doesn't fit because amount begins with a vowel A, and I don't have an, but I have a, so I can eliminate option 4, and option 4 again does not fit the first scenario anyways. Future generations will be left with an inheritable of pollution. Doesn't make sense. They each received an inheritable of, again doesn't make sense. Fortune, future generations will be left with a fortune of pollution and destruction. Pollution and destruction, negative words. Fortune talks about a huge amount of money, success, a positive word. Again, it doesn't fit the scenario. Vocabulary, that's not the right word choice, right? They each received a fortune of maybe, but it doesn't fit the first blank. So we've left with our first option, which is legacy. Future generations will be left with a legacy of pollution and destruction. Is that the right fit? Yes, it is. Legacy not only means money, which is bequeathed by will, which is the second scenario's meaning, but it also means something that is left behind from the past, right? So that's exactly the meaning that legacy brings in the first scenario. So let's fill the blank with our answer option, which is legacy. Moving on to our fourth sentence. Most of our employees get dash abroad at some stage. Second scenario, the aircraft and its crew were dash missing. What are my options? I have option 1, announced, option 2, arrested, option 3, sent, option 4, posted, and option 5, stationed. Alright, so what's going to be our right fit in both the scenarios? Most of our employees get announced abroad, illogical. The aircraft and its crew were announced missing, again illogical. It's not the right word choice. Most of our employees get arrested abroad at some stage. It doesn't make any sense. The aircraft and its crew were arrested missing, again doesn't make any sense. Most of our employees get sent abroad at some stage, maybe, but the aircraft and its crew were sent missing, again illogical. So I'm eliminating option 1, 2 and 3. Doesn't seem to fit both the scenarios. Option 4, posted. Most of our employees get posted abroad at some stage. Yes, posted is nothing but positioned, right? The aircraft and its crew were posted missing. Posted also means publicly announcing, right? It's almost like putting up posters. The aircraft and its crew were posted missing. Yes, that seems like the right fit. But let's look at our option 5. Most of our employees get stationed abroad at some stage. Maybe, but the aircraft and its crew were stationed missing. Again, illogical. Stationed means again positioned, right? So there we go. Our right option for both the scenarios is option 4, posted, which clearly brings in the meaning that it requires in both the contexts. So let's fill those blanks. Our fifth sentence, he admired his dash in the mirror. Second scenario, the article is an accurate dash of events that day. What are our options? Option 1, reflection. Option 2, description. Option 3, imagery. Option 4, photograph. Option 5, mirage. Okay, so any words that you probably are not familiar with, I'm guessing mirage would be one. Mirage is nothing but an illusion, right? Especially if you're traveling, in the desert. You start imagining that, imagining things that you're desiring, probably water or ice cream or something that you desire, you long for. That becomes an illusion for you. It seems like it's there, but it's actually not there. So that's a mirage. So having understood the meaning of that word, let's go back and see if it's the right fit in the context. He admired his mirage in the mirror. No, he's actually able to look at something, right? So it's not an illusion. The article is an accurate. That's another clue word for you. Accurate definitely can't be a mirage, right? He admired his description in the mirror. Doesn't make sense. The article is an accurate description of events that day. Maybe, but description doesn't fit the first scenario. He admired his imagery in the mirror. Again, not the right choice of word. The article is an accurate imagery of events. Again, not the right choice of word. So I can eliminate option 5, 2 and 3, and definitely option 4 too. He admired his photograph in the mirror. Illogical. The article is an accurate photograph of events that day. No. But what about reflection, our option 1? That is our right fit. He admired his reflection in the mirror, right? Again, it's a colloquial expression. You admire your reflection in the mirror. It's a colloquial expression. We've heard people say that repeatedly, right, in that particular context. The article is an accurate reflection of events, meaning it's able to capture everything that happens. So reading the article, you know what exactly happened in the event. So it's like a Xerox copy, right, a reflection. So let's fill that blank with our answer option, which is option 1. Let's look at our last sentence, sixth one. He was dash in bringing about an end to the conflict. Second scenario, Mr. Hari Prasad Chaurasia is an exponent of dash music. What are my options? Option 1, instrument. Option 2, instrumental. Option 3, keen. Option 4, instructor. Option 5, popular. Okay, so let's understand both these contexts, right? We're looking at what word class? We're looking at an adjective. He was dash in bringing about an end to the conflict. We need a word describing this person. In the second sentence also we need a word describing the music, right? So we're looking at an adjective. Now from my options I can automatically eliminate 2 options, which is option 1, instrument, which is a noun, and option 4, instructor, which is again a noun. So option 1 and 4 out because it's not the right word class. We're looking at an adjective. Is it instrumental? Is it keen? Or is it popular? Let's see. He was keen in bringing about an end to the conflict. Maybe. But Mr. Hari Prasad Chaurasia is an exponent of keen music. Incorrect choice of word. He was popular in bringing about an end to the conflict. Not right. Only because we're talking about a specific situation here. We're not talking about a lot of scenarios where this person is popular in doing this, right? So popular is not the right fit in the first scenario. It could be a good fit in the second scenario. So having said that, we're only left with option 2, instrumental. He was instrumental in bringing about an end to the conflict. Instrumental also means he was a reason behind something happening. He was a means by which something happened. That's the meaning that the first scenario brings in. The second scenario, Mr. Hari Prasad Chaurasia is an exponent of what music? Instrumental music. It's a kind of music. It's a type of music. So our answer is option 2. Let's fill that blank. Alright, so we've covered all the 3 variations when it comes to fill in the blanks or sentence completion. And if you looked at some of the strategies that we've applied is, we've looked at context clues from the context helping us in identifying the right answer option. We've looked at hint words, synonym hint words, antonym hint words. We've also looked at clue words, other words, that bring in the same meaning that is required. We've also looked at colloquial expressions, collocations, right? That's also been handy in us identifying the right options. The entire context, is it giving me a positive detail or a negative detail? So these are some of the strategies that we've relied on to identify the right answer options. So continue applying these strategies and keep practicing to ace this particular question type. I will see you guys in the next session on another topic.